agree to? No, I didn't agree to anything. You know what I mean? And that's what I was going earlier. Never agree to anything. Okay? See, what they want to do is they want to say, like, so they started out with an estimate of 10,000. You come in and you supplement it for like with a $20,000 estimate, and they come in and they only approve it up to 15, right? And they say, I didn't get everything you wanted, but I can get a payment out right now. You agree to it, right? You agree to it, I get a payment out now. You know what I mean? Because they've learned that so many contractors are, cash flow is king. We're like, dang, I don't know if I can hold out more. I might as well just take what's on the table now so I can pay this and keep going. You know what I mean? But what you don't realize is that they'll still give you the money if you don't agree to it. They'll still give it to you. Every single time. They're like, do you agree to it? I'll get the payment out now. No, don't agree to anything. You know what I mean? Don't agree to anything. So you want to send it to State Farm Fire Claims at statefarm.com, right? And that, if it is State Farm. But sometimes in those smaller areas, I do get that they're still going to bump it back to the only guy that's in the news, and that could be a problem. But listen, if it's State Farm, every time somebody picks up the phone, it's a different person. It's like a new bite at the apple, So people ask me, like, how many times you go through that round, how many rounds of supplementing, do you go through? Well, the answer is 10, he said 10. The answer is as many as it takes, right? Like literally as many as it takes. So I think a lot of times you cut yourself off with it when you go to like litigation or something, because they close up, and they're like, they don't want to respond to you, and it's delayed and not defend. It's that whole time is winning. Huh?
Just tell you right now, if State Farm, if someone mentioned PA, they start shutting.
Freeze up, right? Freeze up. So, but so you might have one crack at the apple in those scenarios, right? But when you do multiple rounds, who says you can't just keep coming back? And you're like, what do I do when they just roll up, when I hit a dead end? Come back again, get somebody else. You can't always do that with every insurance company, but you keep going. You provide more documentation, more photos, more whatever it is. During the build, you should be taking hundreds of photos. I couldn't get my clients to do that at all. Virtual clients, I couldn't get them to do that. Like during the build, don't almost pay to just hire a photographer because you're thinking of it in terms of, I'm going to hire a project manager. I can't afford to hire a project manager. Hire a free photographer for the day. You know what I mean? Like literally, it's going to pay for itself. It's going to, having that documentation. Because if they're not going to pay for the decking, right? If they're not going to pay for the decking, then it's of course not on the front end. But during the build, when you take off the shingles, especially if it's wet at all, if it's wet, they're thinking rot, but it's wet. It's a water-soaked decking. That's clear as day. And we can prove that with photos during the build. Hundreds of photos.
Yeah. What's the code for sheeting on as far as thickness from a 24 to 4?
Good question, right? Yeah, it is the thicker. It's the thicker. It's the. No, it's 5/8. Yeah, it's 5/8. Yeah. On the newer codes, on the newer versions of the codes. Yeah. Like you send them an estimate, and they write you back like this email with 25 questions. Explain this, explain this, explain that, And so I go through the game with them. Okay, I respond back to everyone. And also kind of sucks because they're the adjuster that follows it from start to finish typically, so you can't like get somebody else and try it again, But nationwide, once they get through the question with you, then they'll ask you to revise your estimate based on where you guys ended up at the end of that. And there again, in your estimate, you don't call attention to the RFG, and they don't catch it. Sharp ones might catch it. More times than not, they don't even catch it. And so, I'm going from never working, ever. I don't care what you heard. The people saying that this all the time works aren't practitioners. Like they're not in the trenches actually doing it. They're just talking about it. Maybe they used to do it. But anyway, any other questions? Go for it.
Yes. Okay. So on the codes, the building code, city code, right now we have an issue with a customer that lives out in the county.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
what do you turn in if you don't have a city code?
Sure. I'm gonna nail all that for you on the next one.
Okay.
When we come back from lunch, basically, all codes. Get ready, sister, because that right there. Got that same question the other day. It's a good one. But actually, that's not the way it is at all. The codes are universal. They're everywhere, not just Texas. I mean, every state, right? Some states do have their own version of the code, but the codes are universal. They're created every 3 years by what's called the International Code Council, the ICC. They're the ones who publish these codes that we're always hearing about, okay? Every 3 years. And so what we have, you can go buy all the books from the ICC codes, and what you would have is the International Residential Code, the International Building Code. Residential is residential, international building is commercial. International Energy Conservation Code, IECC. I want to stop there because those three right there are really the only ones that you guys are going to use the most. Then they also have electrical codes, they have the plumbing codes, HVAC, and on, fire codes, lots of different types of codes, right? But the ones we're going to focus on are the International Residential, International Building Code, and the IECC, the International Energy Conservation Code. Those three sets of those codes. So if we were to go buy all the books, we would only buy those three. Now, you don't have to buy the books, that's the good news. If you want, if you're just getting getting started out in the building codes, you might be the type where you have an analytical mind, like an engineer type mind, and you love this stuff, right? And once you open up your mind, then you can always dive deeper with these codes. There's always more codes you can go find, And so if you buy the books, then you have access to forums and other people. There's a lot more benefits to it, but you don't need it. That's what I'm here to tell you. So I usually don't buy the books, right? Let me explain. So when you have a job that you're going to go to an estimate at, and I know Frisco's not here, but I have it pulled up here, that's Dallas City, right? The first thing you want to know is which version of these codes has the city adopted. So again, it's not the city's codes, it's just that they have chosen to adopt a certain version of these codes. Now again, they come out every 3 years, all right? So what we're dealing with right now is the 2018 version of all these codes. We're not seeing them too much yet, because not too many building departments are requiring the 2018 yet. So typically we think of the most strictest version of the codes as the 2015 version. Okay, so again, every 3 years. We've got 2018, they're not really using so much yet. 2015, that's the most strict version. 2012 version, 2009, 2006, 2003, 2000, and beyond, right? And so the older their codes are, the less restrictions there are. For example, drip edge is required in all cases after 2012. So 2012, 2015, 2018, drip edge is always going to be required, right? And so you want to know, you're here in San Antonio, but which one of these little cities are you doing your job at? It matters. It does matter. So like for me, as a damage expert, before I even go out there, I want to know where that's at, because I want to know what the rules are that govern this estimate. You see what I mean? I want to know, is drip edge going to be required on this job? Okay? So I want to find out. Okay, so I'm going on my way to do a Frisco estimate, right? I want to find out which version do they adopt. So I do a little Google search here, City of Frisco building codes. And just to go back up, because you can see like all the suggestions that pop up, and it's usually right there, or something similar to that. But just to show you that you can find most of the info you're looking for quickly on Google first, okay? So like, you're looking for the City of Frisco's adoptions. Which version have they adopted of these codes, okay? And right there at the very top, adopted codes, all right? So click that. And we can see now on the city website, or that adjuster that needs it on the city website, right? So we have adopted codes. So we see here, the focus of plan review, I'm not going to read it all, but you see here down a little bit further, adopted codes. I don't care about the manual of concrete practice. I don't care about the standards here. I don't care about the electrical code. I don't care about the fire protection code. I don't care about this here. I do care about this. The 2015 International Building Code, okay? So for all commercial jobs in the city of Frisco, I know that I have to be using the 2015 International Building Code. Moving on down, 2015 International, International Energy Conservation Code. I just was talking about that, right? The IECC, that's one of the three. So they used the 2015. Quick note, state of Texas, the entire state of Texas, 2015 IECC. The IECC is the energy codes, okay? So we're talking about, without I'm not here to teach a course on codes, okay, and try to simplify it and make it more easier to understand and help you to go right to the most commonly used codes. So you don't have to get yourself all bogged down and stuff, right? And so energy codes in a nutshell is the building envelope, okay, which is the roof cavity and the wall cabinets, okay? And typically, for our purposes, we're really talking about R values. What are the R values that are required for the roof cavity and for the wall cavity, okay? That's IECC. Sorry, just listen. Sorry. All right. So IECC, and so like on siding, you have to typically have like a fan fold insulation or something that's going to give you the R values in the wall cavity. So if you're doing a siding job, right, and you go and you remove it and there's no fan fold insulation there, then you have to, if it's a residential job, then in this climate zone, you're going to need an R30 value, right? So you're going to need enough thickness to be able to come up with that R value. If there's nothing there, you're going to have to add it. And if they have OL code upgrade coverage, ordinance and law, building code upgrade, in their policy, then the insurance company has to pay for that. It's as simple as that. If it doesn't have house wrap, the tie-back house wrap, that's required, right? Another thing is when you're doing siding, this will come into play, windows, you have to prevent the air leakage from coming through the windows. So Xactimate has items for moldable flashing sill tape, for example, right? Those are a couple of nice items to put in there. You always typically have to replace the window wraps, right? So your window values, the UV rating, some of that stuff comes into play with your IECC. Go ahead.
You run into, what do you do with window beading? I mean, like every hail plan we have, they want to pay for window beading.
Right.
Our window guy's telling us it's really not, we need to reglaze the window.
Mm-hmm. So do me a favor. I've got and I had another guy I was talking to back there just a second ago. There's a segment coming up. Just remember the A bucket, B bucket, C bucket, right? Don't let me forget that when we get to that, because it's going to be perfect for that. I've got a strategy for that, and I think it'll apply to a lot of these things, right? So the energy codes are also coming into play when you're talking about like a flat roof, or really any roof, but you have to have the R30 value on a residential job for the roof cavity, right? So, or for a commercial job, you have to have an R25 in this climate zone here. So it's a little bit different from commercial and residential, right? So what that basically means, and a lot of you may know this already, is if you have like a modified bitumen roof on a flat roof, right? And you go, and it has to be replaced as part of the job. The insurance company writes up, remove and replace, modified bitumen, whatever. You want to do a core test to find out, and the core test is to preferably a 10 by 10 cut, squares cut up, find out what is underneath, take pictures and document everything that's there. So you have, and some people, there's a lot of you guys heard this, but I'm humoring some of the people that don't. There are smaller core tests that you can just grab a little circle of, right? I prefer the 10 by 10s, so you can see everything under there and see the damage. But when you pull up the mod bit, if there's nothing there underneath, like if it's just plywood, and actually typically it's a bunch of other layers where they just kept going over top of it, that ends right now when we're on the job, right? Because we're going to comply with building codes, and you can't do overlays over top of anything. You can't have, again, water soaked decking on anything. You must have a solid nailable surface. So what that really means is you have to go all the way down to the deck. If the deck is wet, which a lot of times with these flat roofs they are, then you have to cut into the, replace at least part of the deck wherever it's wet. And then once you've exposed the roof cavity, now we have to comply with all the R values, okay? Meaning we're going to have to add ISO board to bring it up. It could be 2 sheets, it could be 3 sheets, depending on what the requirement is. So that's a big deal, and I know in all
commercial jobs that I deal with the roofing, that's just like a given. That happens every time. That's not something you have to argue about. If you know what you're doing, what's supposed to be there, and you can display it and verify it, then they're going to give it to you. So, International Fire Code, International Fuel Gas Code, International Mechanical Code, International Plumbing Code, International Property Maintenance. Get the idea, there's a lot of codes, right? And then going on down, is the magic one? There it is. 2015 International Residential Code. I started to tell you in a train of thought. In the state of Texas, sorry about that. The reason why it's 2015 IECC is the governor signed that into law a couple years ago. So it's everywhere in Texas, that particular. I'm not talking about the IRC or the IBC, but those energy codes is law anywhere in Texas. So the young lady asked earlier about the county that, like, you had a job in the county. For the county, like, I'm gonna get to that, because I know exactly where you're coming from, but just to bookmark that if you get into an area where there are no codes, or, you know, so just, we're starting with the city, and if the city doesn't have any codes, like this little small town, or even worse, there is no city, we're like, we might find, like here at Frisco, I looked at Frisco, and I went to whatever county, was it Denton County? I forget what county. We looked at that county, I bet you there's codes there too. And you keep going, Texas has codes too. They've adopted a certain version of the codes too. And so if you don't find that there are any city codes, go on to the county. If there are no city or county, go on to the state. And I've had this when I was in a small town, and you know, the adjuster said, well, we don't have to pay for that because the city doesn't have, they don't enforce the codes. I know a lot of you guys are running that too. And so then you check into that further. I think a lot of people will get any answer they're looking for. You know what I mean? Like these adjusters. I like to hear that conversation that the adjuster had when he called the building department. You know what I mean? Oh, I got this crazy contractor who thinks he's going to rebuild the whole house, you know, he's going to code everything. You don't need that, right? No. Okay, see, they don't enforce the codes. You know, it could have been something like that. When I could have done the same thing the other way. You know what I mean? We've got these crazy adjusters coming in, you know, and they don't know anything about the code. They just want to throw it all back together. But, you know, we know the code. And I did this one time and called the county code department. It was just like a little 1 or 2 person operator. It was a lady. She said, oh, I started asking her this question. She said, oh, you're going to have to talk to Stan. He's in charge of all of that. You know, I finally get a hold of Stan, the main building dude in the county. And he's like, he didn't have a clue what I was talking about. No clue about adoptions, amendments, none of that, right? Most of them are using Eagle. Most of them are using ITEL, right? So if I'm going to be arguing with them all the time, at least I can be coming from the same game. We're fighting, right? So, you know, to finish that out then, I think that for sure, if you've got to go through that, it's an uphill battle to get all the siding by, right? But if you do the work and you lead it in, so you just got to go set about, like, you're not trying to get it all bought at once. You have to go piece by piece. You got to go through the motions of following their prescription. The prescription at first is just the roof. The building codes requires the flashing, right? That has to be replaced. So we just go one step at a time. I think something like that is you maybe try it to supplement it beforehand, before the build, and let them know what you're seeing with detailed photos of the rusted metal, of, you know, nail holes, right? Because if you don't have the nail holes and you're trying to rely on the code by itself, I can just tell you, the first thing you're going to say is, get us pictures, right? And you're just going to say, well, I don't have any pictures, and they're like, well, you're going to have to get us some during the build. And then it's like a lower likelihood that you're going to get it. You know, I think it's really a good idea to get them in the beginning if you can. Any pictures of the damaged flashing. If you plan to put any pipe jacks on there, show the nail hole of the pipe jacks, you know, of all the flashing. But I'm looking at the nail it shows, you know what I mean? Like, no question about it, they were going to pay it, you know? So, like, any item that they said they weren't going to pay, I'm going to put a spotlight on it during the build and get more documentation, because I'm not giving up. I'm coming back after the build with my amended estimate, right? Now it's not an estimate, man. It's an invoice. Pay the invoice. Right? It's not an estimate. It's not hypothetical. This is actual. I can prove I did the work. I've got photos. I can prove why I did it. Right? And so with the overhead and profit, it might be that I need to come back And actually, you know, sometimes they probably ask you for invoices of their subs to prove the overhead profit or whatever. Anybody ever hear that? Okay. So if they do that, do it. Give it to them, but redact the prices. It's none of their business about the price. Never, ever, ever give them care of the prices of the subs. Get out of here with that, right? No way. But I will give you. So I like to actually give them the sub invoices before they ask me for it. You know what I mean? So like if they're saying no O&P, well, let me get together those sub invoices. And also, who here uses Activates? This is getting popular these days, right? I used to use it when it first came out, you know what I mean? But so what I'm getting at, it's a CRM system, right? And so a lot of you guys use different types of CRMs to manage your day and stuff. And I think in Activates, you can kind of look and export all activity and select which kind of activity you want to do. And so if you go harder in on logging all of the stuff that you're doing, okay? So like whenever Jimmy goes to ABC, you get more drip at just logs somewhere. You know what I mean? Like this guy came into the job site at 324. Start to get yourself into more of a habit of logging these things. Because if they say it's not complex and it doesn't require coordination, slap them full of a mile-long worth of logs and journal entries from everything you ever did on that job. Again, get out of here with that, man. You know what I mean? It's definitely extensive. It's definitely, and so I would say, well, I'm going to try to do it all at once. And I'm trying not to make it extensive, you know what I mean, and complex and coordinated. I'm going to try to do that, you know. I'm going to give it a try as long as you're willing to revisit it if I'm not successful in that, right? And so I'm coming back and I'm saying, look, we're on the record. If I'm talking to a State Farm desk adjuster, they're going to say, as long as you're willing to revisit it, fair enough? Yeah, fair enough, because they're always going to say fair enough, because it's somebody else's decision later. So the statement one step further, can you go ahead and notate that into the claim file? You know, even better if you're doing all this via email and you have it on the record, right? Then you go back and say, no. And they always try to say, oh no, you agreed to it. No, I didn't agree to anything. You know what I mean? And that's what I was going earlier. Never agree to anything. Okay? See, what they want to do is they want to say, like, so they started out with an estimate of 10,000. You come in and you supplement for like with a $20,000 estimate, and they come in and they only approve it up to 15, right? And they say, I didn't get everything you wanted, but I can get a payment out right now. You agree to it, right? You agree to it, get a payment out now. You know what I mean? Because they've learned that so many contractors are, because cash flow is king, and we're like, dang, I don't know if I can hold out more. I must just take what's on the table now so I can pay this and pay this and keep going. You know what I mean? But what you don't realize is that they'll still give you the money if you don't agree to it. They'll still give it to you. Every single time. They're like, do you agree to it? I'll get the payment out now. No, don't agree to anything. You know what I mean? Don't agree to anything. This has got to be run through our staff and this and that. But we're moving forward with the job. And I see that that's undisputed money that's already been approved. So we at least agree to what you've approved so far, right? So get the money out, and I'll tell you what, we're going to vet it, we're going to review it. If we have anything else that comes up at a later point in time, we'll get our documentation up and we'll let you know. How's that sound? Sound good? Okay, great. And that, again, they were trying to leverage trick, but then once you gave them the way out of their own trick, they're like, yeah, that does sound good. I'm going to get paid, this is going to close out. You know what I mean? It's like this psychology war that you're playing with these adjusters all the time. And so, any questions on that, the A, B, and C bucket? It works so very good. And you can think of just about anything in construction that they don't want to pay for, and ask yourself, will the C bucket work for that? It probably will, because it's just about your timing, right? Like, again, you can go back and supplement just as many times as you want, man. You know, if they the next time we go back with your amended estimate, you say, look, we built the job, and here's all the stuff that you didn't approve, now approve it. And then they revise it, they give you more money. Do you agree to it? No, don't agree to it. Send in the money, I'll let you know after you get a chance to review it. Hey, thanks a lot for sending all that money you sent last week, right? And for agreeing to this and then. We just have a few more outstanding items. I was wondering if you can go ahead and address now. But then, you know, the insurance companies do the tricks that the adjusters do. And you ever had this happen where you send them an estimate and they call you back and they might leave you a message and say, oh, hey, Chad, got your estimate here and, you know, everything looks pretty much in order here and it looks like there's really just one item here that I've got a question about, right? why did you, if you have 15% waste, we only pay 10, right? And I'm like, whoa, that's the only problem they have. That's the only item they have a problem with? Great, you know what I mean? Because I'll give them that in a heartbeat. If that's their only problem, I'm already doing the math, you know what I mean? And so you go and you say, oh yeah, no problem, yeah, shorten that down. It's like, okay, well let me go ahead and let me do some revisions here and I'll get back with you. He calls you back and says, hey, Chad, I noticed that there's just one other item here I had an issue with, right? And you're like, oh man, what is it? And eventually you're like, how many other issues do you have a problem with? Tell me all of them. I need to know all of them before I keep just giving you money back, right? Use that trick in reverse. Use that with them. You see what I mean? So I noticed you approved this. I just have one more item here. I was hoping we'd get cleared up over here. You know what I mean? And just just nickel and dime, piece them to jab them to death. Because I think you guys are all gathering. If you learn anything from what I'm doing the more slow, methodical, take your time, really combing through the value of every single job versus quantity, right? And that's just the way I choose to do it. I'm sure you can all take away whatever you choose to take away from it, right? Any other questions about that? Sorry, I know I asked that. Somebody raised their hands. I'm scatterbrained.
So you do that just because a small number looks better than one huge number?
Huh?
You do that just because one small number, a couple of small numbers look better than one huge?
Yeah, good question. Okay, so let me give you another example of that, right? Like has anybody ever seen my What's Wrong with This Insurance Estimate episodes on my YouTube channel? Nice. Nobody here watches my YouTube channel. You guys better all freaking subscribe because you're not going to treat. But like, What's Wrong with This Insurance Estimate? Something I started about 3 years ago, and I have like 10 episodes there where it's really like I go and I review an estimate, a real, State Farm estimate, for example, and I redact the information when we go through it. We really go through the depth on the videos, like a screen share video, and then we really look at all the problems with this estimate. And then I show an estimate that I actually wrote and actually submitted on that claim, and we go through that in depth, and then we look at the revised estimate from State Farm, how it ended up at the end, right? And so what made me think that is my most recent episode 10 was a big one, man. I think it was, I'm just shooting from the hip, but I'm thinking it was like 125 is where it started, and it got to like 407. That's a big deal, right? But it was still missing about 175,000 at that point. And the reason why, it's a big hurricane deal, it's a big house, tore up inside and out. But all the windows and doors needed to be replaced on this thing, right? And so, and then due to code. Now, I knew that, so in fact, we did an estimate, much like we're talking about here. They sent out another adjuster to do a re-inspect. A lot like that scenario earlier. Do you have an estimate? No, I don't. I'm working on it. Do you use ESX? Blah, 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 right? And so, there's another one that allowed me to use all my lingo. And what I did with him is I figured if I put all the windows and doors in this whole house that would be replaced, along with everything else, they're going to bulk. And what if that issue right there holds up all the money for the roof and for all the other stuff? It delays it, right? I want to get the job moving. I want to get money flowing. And so I'm looking for, what is it that they've applied coverage for? Get the money off the table now. And then man, you got all the time. The claim is never closed until all the work is done and paid for, right? So when you call them up and you say, I've got another thing, they say the claim is closed. Well, real? You open it up, you know what I mean? It's not closed until all the work is done and paid for, right? And so it's never closed. So you can go back time and time again, over and over again. So on that strategy, we left the windows and doors off, but we opened the door, no pun intended, for the coverage by saying all the windows and doors are damaged. We laid out all this code information, all this stuff. Met with the guy who did the re-inspect. We took my ESX and he go watch episode 10 and see it for yourself, you won't believe me. He put in there on every single part that the windows and doors are damaged. Like I had 37 on the front elevation, like capping out the front elevation, right? 37 windows are damaged on this elevation and must be replaced prices and specifications to follow. So that's called an open item in the industry, right? It's zero, but it's an open item. So we open the door for it, right? So that we're on record. But in this case, he fell for the okey-doke trick with the ESX file. So that means he's copying everything that I wrote, including my footnotes, which said, his conclusion, all the windows and doors are damaged, must be replaced, prices and specifications to follow. 405, I'm currently waiting on that other 175. Because as soon as it was paid, immediately come back with the estimate for the windows and doors. Okay, ready for the estimate for the windows and doors? What windows and doors? Yeah, you remember the estimate that your adjuster wrote? You look at it yourself. On there it says that all the windows and doors are damaged, must be replaced. You know, so there's lots of different strategies. I think every claim is really unique, and every claim might call for a different strategy. But if you're doing like, if you're doing like the idea of per square prices on roofing, right? Like, well, I charge 300 square, 200, whatever it is. I couldn't tell you. That's what's so funny. I couldn't tell you, after 20 years of doing this, I couldn't tell you what the going rate is on a per square roof right now. Because I'm not a contractor anymore, so the only way I would know that is by how much it costs to buy and how much my labor costs, right? So in other words, I never, ever, never have, never will, ever look to see where my cost per square is on the roof. Why is that relevant? Let me explain. If you have one roof that you have A roof, roof A, roof B, sit side by side. Both of them are 30 squares, exact same size. But roof A has 288 linear feet of drip edge. Roof B has 120 linear feet, right? Roof A has 12 pipe jacks. Roof B has, you see what I'm going in? Once you put all the items on that 30 square roof, this 30 square roof might be 400 square, and this one might be 2, you know what I mean? And so you just don't get yourself hung up on what the per square of the roof actually even is. It shouldn't matter. Like I never, ever think about prices, the dollar amount. I just don't. I'm thinking about the items. You know, I know when it's right. You know, as far as like, they left off a ton of stuff. It's not right. You know, I'm not thinking about they left off a ton of money. You know, I think the sooner we can get our clients thinking like that too. You know, think about the dollar amounts they're trying to take and fit your, you know, your job. They're trying to find a contract to fit into that insurance number. Where we at?